Hello everyone, this is Wyland with the FPV podcast. Before we actually get into the content, I just want to let you know that we're going to be putting on some really interesting drone racing events this year. One of them is going to be at a NASCAR track that's going to be at the Kentucky Speedway. So if you're interested in some more information, please go to our website, atdroneracing.com, or if you Google search AT Drone Racing, definitely join the Facebook group. Whether you're a pilot or somebody who just likes to watch drone racing, we're going to have something for everyone. Keep an eye out for more information. As the months go by, we're going to be posting a lot of content based around our drone racing events. Thank you so much for listening, and on to the podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's FPV podcast. This week we got two twins that are starting a company building frames. They're over here in Ohio, so they're actually in my neck of the woods for once, which I am appreciative of. So before we introduce them and let them tell their story, Elvin, why don't you say hello?
Hey everybody, it's Elvin Wilson here. I just want to say hello and pay attention to my sponsors. Peace out.
You're not even going to mention names this week? Oh, you're doing good.
The hat's right there, baby. It's right there.
You're doing good. Corey, they're being nice to you. Corey, why don't you say hello first to our fellow podcasters?
Hi, everybody. I am Corey Grywalski, one of the co-owners of Twin Quad Frames.
Awesome. Keith?
And I'm the other twin. So just like this guy, but he claims to be better looking. So
okay, we're gonna need a vote on this. No, that's a terrible idea.
No voting. No voting.
No voting allowed. Cool. So let's go ahead and get into let's go ahead and get into your backgrounds. Now we both know from our brief conversations that you guys love, racing and everything about FPV. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backgrounds? Corey, you want to start?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Keith and I, we are 32-year-old identical twins, born and raised here in Ohio in a small town of Cambridge. We're two of four siblings, and I have a wonderful family. So we grew up with a hardworking family, two parents that own their own businesses, that type of thing. And at an early stage, we just had an onset for, kind of doing your own thing. And if you're going to do something, you're going to do it right. So, and if there's a time to do something, you're going to do it right. So we try to work hard and kind of stand behind that. But a little bit about me, I guess, personally, is Keith and I, we are identical twins, but I happen to be in a wheelchair. So I was born with a disability called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. It's about a mile long if you want to spell that out or try to look it up. But it's just a muscle and joint disorder. I use a wheelchair manually day-to-day life, but my life has been pretty exciting. So I'm a do-it-yourselfer kind of person, and nothing's held me back. As soon as I graduated high school, moved down to Florida and lived in Florida for a while. From there, kind of got tired of the beautiful weather and the perfect flat ground. So I decided to kind of jump ship from Florida and drove 32 hours out to Colorado. So I kind of went from one extreme to the other there. And, Keith and I, we've always, been very competitive and been just kind of adrenaline junkies at heart through and through. We were born and raised with, having to, got a four-wheeler for our birthday. I think we were 10 years old, but it was a four-wheeler in parts. So we had to put that thing together before we could ride. So, a little bit like that. And we were very lucky to be raised by, a mother and a father that taught us a lot of things. So, like he said, our dad built custom homes for our entire life, 30 years. And before that, he was a diesel mechanic. So, just quite a bit of knowledge we were able to inherit from that side of things, too. So,
nice.
So, that's a little bit about me and kind of where we came from. And, I could go on and on and on about that all day long, but I know we got a show to get to. So,
right.
It's along here to Keith and let him give his part there.
Go ahead, Keith.
yeah, so he touched on all the good parts. So
he left you nothing.
Like Corey said, grew up in a small town, great family, very supportive of everything that we've ever been a part of. And most things that I've ever been, hobby wise got into, is because of him. So one day he's like, "Hey, I'm going to go snow skiing." I'm like, "What?" And so I started snow skiing as he did. Same with mountain biking, water skiing, kayaking, you name it. He pretty much got me into it. But for me, we live here. My wife and I live just north of Columbus in Delaware. Like I said, we have a brand new baby boy that I'm going to get addicted to every hobby like we are. Which is good. So from an early age, we're going to get him stuck on just about everything, including mini quads and racing and all that fun stuff. But so we're here local in Columbus. We got a lot of support from friends and family. Actually, a lot of them are upstairs right now bouncing around. So if you hear them, that's who they are. So
that's pretty
I mean,
awesome.
that's just in a nutshell. Like Corey said, we can go on and on, tell you every story in the book that we've ever gotten in trouble. But, we'll talk about quads today.
Okay, sounds good. And hey,
Nice,
Corey,
nice.
you know what? I got a buddy that's also in a wheelchair, and I tell you what, he is a master in that thing. Like, he can run rings around me. I'm like, holy cow! It's like nothing stops that boy. It's like, he's gonna have trouble. No. He can run rings around me.
Yeah. I mean, a little more of that background, I guess, as far as like not letting things hold me up. I guess the lead on to where I left off as far as Colorado goes. It was a small thing I saw on the Discovery Channel was this downhill mountain bike. Well, that was 10 years later. I made it out to Colorado. I was like, if there's going to be one of these bikes anywhere, it's going to be out here. Well, long story short, I found one of these amazing 4-wheel downhill mountain bikes, and I set out to ride that thing every single weekend. It was a 3-hour drive one way. I live with my sister out there in Colorado, and I basically worked to ride that bike every single weekend, and it was amazing. It was the biggest adrenaline rush I have ever experienced prior to FPV.
Pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So hey, that's a good segue into FPV and RC. So how did you two guys, get into RC and, eventually find your way to FPV?
Yeah. So at a very young age, we've always been into anything remote control, primarily, cars, right? Everybody, Christmas time comes rolling around, right? You get kind of a junky, throw in some AA, battery RC car. But then we discovered, we grew up in a small town, so we didn't have hobby shops around the corner or anything like that. So we were in Florida visiting family, and we drove past a hobby shop, and we talked my mom into driving us over there. And we were probably 9, 10 years old maybe. And we walked into this place, and our eyes lit up, and like everything under the sun that we could imagine was in this place. So we begged and pleaded for her to buy us a Traxxas Rustler. Electric, right? So we got the batteries, we got everything. We wore the tread off off the tires in like an hour, right? So then we drove back, bought the tires, bought super glue. We mounted our own tires, at 9, 10 years old. And then from that, it really kind of just started, snowballing into more and more and more. We got back to Ohio probably a couple months later. We both, like I said, 10 years old, 11 years old, bought nitro. But nitro trucks, right? So went from an electric to straight into nitro because we loved building motors, all that kind of fun stuff. So that's kind of the beginning of our RC. And then from that, fast forward, 10 years or whatever, we got going through high school, college, everything. I lived in North Carolina or South Carolina for a while. And then when I moved back to Ohio, I was looking for a hobby for my brother and I to do in the wintertime. Up here, there's not a lot to do when the snow starts to fall. So I don't know how it came up, but I stumbled on indoor RC truck racing, right? Buggy racing, 4-wheel, 2-wheel drive. And there was a couple local tracks. So we went out, checked it out, and we're like, yeah, let's do this.
Full-blown addiction.
And then we just went online, bought everything that you could possibly need to start racing buggies. And we got pretty big into that. I mean, we picked up a couple of small sponsors here and there, but nothing major. But it was something that him and I could do in the wintertime. We'd go down every Saturday and Sunday and race, and it was very competitive. And, there's some big, some big name guys that are still doing it. And they're doing it really, really well. So we did that for what, 3-4 years?
Yeah, I mean,
probably 3 or 4 years, I would say, like competitively.
Yeah, competitively.
And then rolls around, like he said, December 2014, which I was just on YouTube, fumbling around, and stumbled on the well-known video.
So yeah, I'll pick up from here. So I remember my brother hit me up right around Christmas time. He's like, dude, texting me, look at these things. They're called mini quads. Check it out. And he's like, sends me a YouTube link of the French guys in the woods. Everybody knows that the Star Wars Flying Through the Woods video. And I was like, what is this thing? And how are they doing that, first of all? And then immediately we just, YouTube University and as much Googling as you can do. And we're very lucky to have some pretty big hobby shops now here very close to us here in Columbus. One is a stone's throw away from me, Ready Made RC. I know you've had some of the guys on there, AJ, Kevin, all those guys. I'm really close and buddies with all those guys. So that didn't help my addiction, knowing that I could order something online and do an in-store pickup and 10 minutes later have a box full of parts every single week. So
you are in trouble.
Yeah, I was in trouble big time. So yeah, we, kind of fell into that and, just kind of, it took off from there. And, it was funny because I worked real close to that building as well. And that was really before, that December, we were just Amazon was our first kind of build. It was a ZMR 250 running Emax 1806 motors, I think. Keith is always trying to outdo me. So as soon as I built mine, he immediately upgraded to 2204 Sunny Sky motors. And I'm like, what are these things? They're huge, And so back and forth, I'd build something, he'd build something, I'd build something. And, so it was just back and forth from there. I remember my first FPV race, and I was reminded of this because of Facebook, was March 15th of 2015. So I used a laptop using a capture card with a little external receiver transmitting laggy video down to the laptop. Was my first FPV experience, was through a ground station that I hacked.
Yeah, I think for the longest time, my ZMR, I line of sight. I mean, yeah, I had everything kind of ready to where I could, plug in, the FPV, equipment. But in the beginning, I mean, it wasn't like buying a $29, VTX like it is these days. You know what I mean? You're spending $70, $80 on a VTX that you're probably going to burn up because you have no idea what you're doing. Right. So I flew line of sight. Was able to do flips and rolls even in
horizon mode.
Way back when, and then obviously the FPV stuff kind of started coming more into play, a little bit more affordable. So I bought my Fat Sharks and my CCD camera that was literally like a security camera, not the super nice cased ones,
HS1177
that everybody uses now. So and again, that feels like ages ago, but it was like 2 years, right? So how far have we come today?
Yeah.
Super fast. And that's a pretty good progression, actually. And we've heard a lot about this. Elvin, were you ever into buggies? I don't remember.
Well, I have, I've been doing this for plus 30 something years, guys. So I have one of the first Revos that was shipped to the state of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I have gold RC10 frames. I'm buggies. So I have a blue one, I have a gold one, and my son has a silver frame. So, the gold one's worth some money though.
Don't wreck that one. You know what's funny is that these buggies. Like I was at the shop just yesterday actually, and I was just looking at them, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really cool looking buggy." And then I saw the price tag was like $700. I was like, "Holy crap!" It's like quads are going down, buggies are going up, and I was like, "What happened?"
It is. It's I think anything, a lot of RC hobbies, it's sometimes price driven. What gets people into the hobby or gets somebody out of the hobby. Right. But for us, when we got into buggies and we love building stuff. So it was like, hey, what can we do? What can we buy to put it together? Like I didn't want to buy a ready to run like anything. Like I want as many pieces and parts that could come in. Like that's what I wanted to do. So that was a big part of it. Really, even into FPV now, it's like, hey, we like building stuff. We like building it, very particularly. and precisely, and we did that even from back to where our RC buggy days.
If you could see the workbench we're sitting the laptop on right now, you would get just a small hint of the kind of precise and OCD-ness we carry in our genes here. So. We don't want to show you because it's nice and tidy, not like what's behind it. Yeah.
That's I gotta say that's a great thing to have. I mean, I wish I had some OCD-ness. I can't run from here to the door. I can't run from here to the door without tripping over stuff. So I can tell you that. But you guys moving through the RC car thing, I've noticed that the guys that come up from RC cars have a little bit more attention to detail in building. They enjoy to build a little bit more. They love the whole effect about flying. They love the whole aspect of racing, and but I think they really are driven by the build. It's so much, and I think it's because it's a simpler part of the simplest part of building a quad. It's that I just know what I got to. Everything's got to be down to a millimeter of movement. Like you guys know what I'm talking about. Shims. Oh, yeah. Buying shims to put in your dog bone drive lines to keep the gaps right. Yeah. Putting the boot on and putting enough grease in there to keep it to play so that it floats a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the aspects about RC cars that transfers well into quads, that attention to detail. And, the next level of that, I would say, is RC helicopters for sure. Yeah. Because you're ducking and hiding wires and trying to pay so much, bring out other details and hide the subtleness of there is a wire running along this frame. You know what I mean? You're not looking at that. You just accept that it's there because it has to be. You know what I mean?
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And yeah, don't get into helis. That's terrible because you'll spend so much money.
That's all I've ever heard. And I think another little piece of our RC.
Yeah, I went through that.
Heli is he bought a lot of those. But remember, I don't know if you guys remember the little cheapo Air Hogs helicopter. Do you remember those things that had like
the foam
little
single, just one direction, always forward? Yeah.
So we had.
Definitely.
I mean, I feel like you just named something. We probably owned one or two.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, though,
that's
like
kind of how it is here too.
In terms of flying machines, like somebody who's really good at a heli, I mean, it's just amazing to watch because it literally defies gravity in every direction. But like, it's such a scary machine because especially if it's close to you, you really have to trust the guy in front of you if he's flying close in front of you, because that thing is like it's like 3 lawnmowers.
Seriously, they are no joke.
Some of them have 14 horsepower worth of electric power. You know what I mean?
They are no joke.
It's insane, and it's to think about it. But that's that. Listen, all of these things progress as time, right? That's what it is. What is that?
Oh, you'll see. It's a secret.
Keeping that
Look, listen. You just like Elvin's like a dog. You just said squirrel, and his dog, and he just went squirrel, and he just went right there.
We'll show you a little later.
He doesn't care anymore. You just showed him a toy, and he's like, I'm done. I'm done.
Let's get back on track here, Elvin. All right.
All right. Cool. So, let's go ahead and get into that because you got the banner right back there. It says twin quad frame. So obviously you guys started a company. So tell us the story about why you wanted to start this company.
Sure.
Yeah. Corey can start.
Yeah, sure. So, like we said, we've been in it for a long time. We've, had our fair share of builds each. So we've been through a lot of frames. We start to get an idea of what we like and what we don't like, what we wish we could see and what we wish we didn't see. We want things to fit and feel a certain way, and we want a certain type of quality behind it. There's been so many times where I'm like, it just isn't there. It's not what I want. It doesn't fit like this, or it's not flexible like that. So, but there's lots and lots of good frames out there. We're not saying we're the best out there by any means at all, but it just never really fit the particularness that we like and the way we like to build things. So this really kind of all started on pen and paper, and just, I built a frame up, and I was like, man, I wish I could change this and this and this and that. And then it was like, well, why don't we, And, we were able to spend some time together for, a week straight. And so we were side by side, and Keith was like, you know what, let me draw something on a piece of paper, because he's a true artist on pen and paper as well. So he hand sketched kind of this, bottom plate up. Do you have the hand sketch?
I wish, but I used literally to scale this.
Yeah. So I would say things like, hey, why don't you make it roughly, I know these ESCs that I like to use are 16 millimeters wide. Let's start there and see what it looks like. And I know that this is X amount. So he sketched it up on a pen and paper, and I was like, that looks pretty sweet. I'm like, I think we're going somewhere. So we took that pencil drawing, and then I threw it into some CAD software. So I took that pencil drawing and I turned it into actual real life measurements down to the millimeter. And then we started to tweak and adjust, and make this curve. And we're very OCD in particular when it comes to even the slightest of curve on something. And he'd be like, no, change it. And I'd change it. No, I'd change it a little bit more. I like change it a little bit more. No, I like it back how it was. Yeah. And we change it back, be like, yeah, that's perfect. You know what I mean? So it was that a lot back and forth. I mean, and then there was also a lot of math and science we feel behind it as well. It wasn't just, a cartoon that we turned into, a comic book. We tried to put some real thought and math behind it as well. So that's kind of where the beginnings of that started. Tweak. We felt like we had something good. I have a 3D printer, so for a couple years now. So I decided just to do a full 3D print of it just to see. And I've actually 3D printed some full frames that I've flown before, some 3-inch stuff and whatnot. And they flew awesome, little pods, and it was cool. So that's how we started our manufacturing mock-ups, was by me 3D printing a full frame design that we have, and the thickness and the size that we want, not to fly it, but to test fit everything, to make sure everything lined up how we wanted, to make sure it felt how we wanted, make sure everything fit how we want. So, and here's a little taste of something, but that's one of the 3D print mock-ups there.
Yeah, it's just like it's a cheap, easy way to do prototyping for us.
Yeah.
We don't have a CNC, setting in my basement the way we can throw a piece of carbon on and cut one out real quick. But, in no time we can 3D print one just to do, like Corey said, our mock-ups, our test fits, and then we can get them cut. And once we're comfortable with it, really we don't even 3D print it until visually on the computer we say, okay, let's print it and then hold it and see. And then we maybe make some small tweaks from there. But like I said, from our first batch of 8 carbon frames that we cut, we made some tweaks after that batch. Nothing major, but just some places to save weight and still keep it strong and lightweight.
Okay, pretty cool. So let me ask you this: when did you feel like you can actually start a company and start selling this stuff? Because there's a big jump between making stuff that you like to, hey, let's make a company.
Well, yeah, that's like I said, growing up, both of our parents owned small businesses, right? Very successful. So we've always had that mentality, and we've always had that, like, hey, what can we do that we truly love and enjoy? So like I said, starting, we wanted to make something that we wanted to fly that had our name on it, like a small short story. My brother has a little sunroom, so we wanted a ping pong table in there. Well, it wasn't quite big enough for a full-size ping pong table, so we just built a smaller one. We went and bought everything to build a ping pong table, and we just built one. So that's how we've always done things. So we took our frame, took our design. We have a great community here in Columbus that a lot of FPV pilots are around. We started getting some feedback and really getting some interest, and Corey's done a lot of website design. So I would say within, 2 weeks, we had a website. Yeah. We were like up, rolling, ready to go.
Yeah.
We found a guy that could cut our frames at a decent cost in North America, which is nice.
Yeah, with quality carbon too.
Quality carbon, and which we thought was very important. We can save a lot of cost and outsource it elsewhere. but right now we're not trying to make $1 million, right? We're trying to give, a good solid frame at a very, very reasonable price, to where if guys want to buy 2 or 3, they can, and they are here local. So it was a pretty easy decision for us to say, hey, we have a really great frame, and you know what? We have 2 great frames. We have 3 great frames. Let's put them in guys' hands, and we got some local guys here, and they were willing to support us. And we were like, hey, we'll cut you a deal. And they're like, no, we want to support you because we think this is going to be something great. So that's kind of the direction it went, and we're taking it with every stride we can, and one step at a time. You got to kind of crawl before you walk and walk before you run. So,
and some of us don't even get to walk or run.
Oh, there you go. Hey, let's get into that a little bit.
Mainly me. I did those things for both of us.
Yeah. And that's the kind of a little inside joke too. It was always like the brains behind the making him do something bad, So it's like, hey, let's tear apart our Power Wheels Jeep and turn it into something awesome, And
it was good.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it probably hits on kind of what you're asking. So
yeah, no, definitely, and who are the guys that are supporting you? Is it a certain group? Let's give them a shout out for anybody who supports local companies. I'm all for it.
Yeah, we have guys. Not to cut Corey off, but the nice thing is, through Instagram and social media, we've reached out to people all over the world. So, we have frames going to New Zealand, Singapore, Spain, Sweden. So even those guys are giving us some love and supporting, the new small guys in the States. And then again, we got a ton of support here locally.
Yeah.
Corey knows those guys. He's with them every weekend. I have to take care of a brand new baby. So
you get to have all the fun, Corey, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
So I get to. But no, we have a really strong FPV community here in Ohio in general. So Ready Made RC, along with their parent company Strix RC, they have been just completely supportive to Keith and I throughout our whole addiction, really, I like to call it. So, those guys have just been awesome to us. The guys at Buddy RC, same thing. Mm-hmm. They're another hobby shop out of Columbus, Ohio area. Just everybody's just a wonderful group of guys. They all provide wonderful products to all of us, So, and then the multi-GP groups that I fly with, the Buckeye FPV group, the Cincinnati Quad Squad, the Cleveland Quad Racers, there's all of them are just great groups of guys, and I fly with all of them. Captain Uno, he's been an awesome guy.
Yeah, that's my buddy there.
Him and I, we're pals. We're going back and forth. We have all kinds of ideas. Him and I want to kind of scoot under the radar as well, and we're real cool. All those guys up in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Illinois, everywhere, Indiana,
pretty much everybody that's bought a frame. Nobody else.
Hey, you know what? Hey, as a person from the Midwest as well, I know you guys have a tight-knit community. The Ohio guys, every one of them, they are very passionate about FPV and racing in general. So it's really cool that you guys are right there in that community and then supporting them with a good product. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. And that was a fun thing too, with the tiny whoop craze. Especially in the wintertime here, it's a fun thing to do, like inside of a warehouse or whatever. So they, the guys up in Cleveland, they had a big tiny whoop championship in Cleveland, and through just some connections via Instagram and Facebook, they reached out to us and said, hey, do you guys want to kind of be a part of it? And we're like, sure. So we helped them with a frame as one of their kind of sponsor giveaways or whatever. So it was a cool thing. Yeah, like a prize. So we took a bunch of 3D printed accessories for our frames, and we donated one of our Stretch X kits. So, and the guys up there just loved it, right? They're just super supportive. We had a handful of our frames built up, ready to go. So even though it was a tiny whoop race, everybody had their full size 5-inch quads out there. So they were stoked to kind of see what we were doing, because they've heard of us and they've seen it, but they haven't put their hands on it yet. So it was a cool way. And we're trying to get out to as many of those events as we can. But it was just, like I said, for being new guys, it was cool for them to be like, hey, it looks like you guys got a great product. We'd like for you to, maybe support us, and we'll help support you. So we're all about that for sure.
Definitely love those type of stories. Absolutely love those type of stories. So, Corey, I got a specific question for you. Since I think you've, ever since you've come out, you've been in a wheelchair. What is it like to fly FPV and to be able to be free and stuff like that? You got a story about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I really, really do. So
let's sit back for this one.
No, so that's just a really good point to bring up. And like I kind of touched base on a little bit, I'm just a adrenaline junkie at heart. I mean, identical twin, I always give him crap. I'm like, bro, you need to do this. I'm like, buy a BMX, buy a mountain bike. And he's like, yeah, why not?
I bought all that stuff.
So, I experienced a lot of it too. There's a wonderful group out of Columbus, Ohio here. It's called TASK. The Adapted Adventure Sports Coalition. Went into them, started with some adaptive snow skiing. So there was a little bit of adrenaline rush. Did some water skiing with them. There was a little bit of adrenaline rush. So, they would have these events. And then I got into, just a little bit of sailing and kayaking. We bought kayaks. And so, just always been into that. And in the small town that we grew up in, just have always been into BMX biking, skateboarding, downhill mountain biking. We went to, years and years ago, the B3X Games in Kentucky and got to go behind scenes, got Dave Mira's autograph, sat side by side with him, rest in peace, Dave Mira. But just got to meet a great group of guys. And, I've always been into like video editing and wanting to be a part of that. And if I could have, I would probably be in a whole different life. I'd probably be in Colorado downhill mountain biking, to be honest, so my whole path would have been a different path. But, I've always out there seeking that adrenaline rush. And, the RC racing got me a little bit of that rush, that competitiveness, that you can't get, skating the streets and things like that. So, so that got me a little bit closer. And then, the little helis and things like that, a little bit closer. And then when he showed me the Frenchman in the Woods Star Wars video, I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be as So, and then once I got my first set of goggles and, when I started to put it all together and when it all started to really click, is when I really realized, like, hey, this is the new age skateboarding. I can make those skateboard-esque videos and those downhill mountain biking videos, and I can gain that adrenaline rush that I've been seeking for a long, long time from the comfort of my own seat. I can sit here, throw on a pair of goggles, and I'm blast off. I'm
right.
Trees. I'm screaming across the ground. Or you know what? If I just want to putt across the field and take a look around to go somewhere that normally would take me 3 hours to push my butt in my wheelchair across the field, I can zip there and back in a half a second. So. And then just that freestyle aspect of it. And that's kind of where I started, was just that freestyle, just to like do a trick or be like, hey, my mind says that I can make this quad do that, do it, make it happen on those sticks. And so that's when it was like, man, this is like skateboarding, because a skateboarder doesn't just grab a skateboard off the shelf and be like, oh, look, I just did an ollie and a kickflip and a 360. Now, they don't do that in an hour. So it's that like, hey, let me practice my butt off to do that ollie. Yes, right. I got an ollie down. Like, let me try a kickflip, and I'm going to fail 100 times, and then I nailed it, and then I got it. So that's kind of where it all stemmed for me, and where it takes me in that, adrenaline junkie life, and that having that competitive blood that Keith and I just have, as far as just instilled in just us. Small story off the side, we tore up our whole side yard to build a personal RC car track. Mom thought we were just a little thing. She came home to the whole side yard tore up. So, we've always had that, like,
part of it was the neighbors.
Yeah. And then it doesn't help when your twin brother drives that competitiveness, so I might get something that I feel is, hot and heavy and super fast. And then he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you, but I'm going to build something even better and faster. And then after it's all done and built, I'm going to let it sit on a shelf for 3 months and not fly it at all. So, but no, so it was all that, just that driving competitiveness of being like, oh, I can do better. I can build better and fly faster and push myself a little bit more. And it was just that, gaining that experience and that little bits and bits of knowledge that you gain from everybody else that had to go through the same thing. And that's really before a lot of this early knowledge was before, YouTube blew up with the FPV community, before there were the big names out there, which I'm buddies, I feel like through the Facebook world, like me and Mr. Steele, we chat, on Facebook, fairly often. And, and it's just cool to just be a part of that, and it's funny when him and I talk, I'm like, let's just not talk about quads. Like, let's talk about something else. You know what I mean? So, it's just fun to just meet new people and, being a part of the multi-GP community and, really getting into that racing scene last year. Last year was when I really got into signing up for multi-GP, but I think when I looked back at my multi-GP stats, I think my very first, I consider a real true, I'm ready to race was in July of 2015. Yeah. No. 2016, July of 2016. So just, last summer is when I was like, man, I'm just really going to go to more multi-GP races and try to do well. And I made it into just before nationals there. So I made it into the regionals and all of that. So it was fun. And then, that just, I went through this past winter just building and coming up with these ideas and, just kind of fine tuning and, thinking of ideas and what I really want. And I was lucky enough. I'd like to give a shout out to him. I don't know if he's really doing too much with them, but Rotor Ace Frames out of California was my first quadcopter sponsor, and he sponsored me with a frame that he had designed, and I just thought it was the bee's knees. You know what I mean? So and it is. I still have one completely built up. That is awesome. And I helped with him making little tweaks, things that I thought of that maybe he didn't, and we'd go back and forth. And he was lucky enough to help me out getting into a different frame style and that kind of thing as well. So that's a little bit where I got started into kind of the racing and really getting into it heavy. And already this season and even through the winter, I did a little bit of the warehouse races and stuff, but nothing real major. I'm a 5-inch guy. I'm a 5-inch and up. So I like the speed. I like the fast, the torque, the sound, like all of that stuff. So, but I have multiple tiny whoops built up. I got, tiny whoops to 3, 4, 5, and, I'll hint to a 6-inch. I'm sure you probably saw a little bit on the site maybe, but so that's kind of my range of where I like to stay, and just trying to fine tune my skills and just get better and better and just try to get as many laps in as I can, So, but it's really just all about the fun, meeting the new guys, being outside,
Definitely. And you know what? It's competitive, so you got to really stick with it.
Yeah.
So, you know what? That's a great story. And I'm really glad that you two are really close together. It's really cool to have two brothers that are so close and be able to share in something like FPV and hearing your story. So let's go ahead and get into it. Show us your stuff. We want to see your toys. Elvin's ready. He's ready. He's like...
Yeah. I've been waiting on this.
Like we said earlier, we just kind of, we're sitting around. We had a little bit of time together, so we started sketching things out. Came up with what we felt is a very durable... quality, light, raceable frame, right? We didn't want a tank floating through the air. We wanted something that, guys could pick up, put their favorite components on, and it's going to work, right? So we're trying to keep it simple. So like I said, I first sketched out a Stretch X because that was, kind of the hype going right now. And I said, you know what, a True X is going to perform, just as well as most. So I wanted to do both. So 10 minutes after I drew the Stretch, I drew the True X. So like we were saying earlier, customers always come first. So all of our frames are out except for our True X's. So you know what? Let me see if I have something. You know what? This will work.
White envelope.
That'll be perfect. Something that you can see it a little bit better. So this is the True X, right? So we did a couple of things unique. We wanted to keep it as compact as we can from rear end to front end. And we wanted, I wanted from the center hole where the motor mounts, I wanted a straight line from one to the next, right? So it's an exact perfect straight line through and through, where you'll see some some frames they may have that straight line, but there may be more carbon fiber on one side of that line than the other, right? So in my mind, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I wanted it more symmetrical, right? I wanted the same amount of carbon fiber on the left and right side because I felt like that would be more balanced naturally. So I did that completely all the way around on both frames. So the stretch and the true are the exact same way. Just the arms are obviously a little bit longer and a little bit more towards the front of the frame. So we wanted to do a couple other things. Sorry. I don't know how well you can see, if at all. We put the mounts for your FPV cameras. So they all come with the hard mounts. So we wanted to give people the option, either use the mount that comes with your cameras or use our 3D printed TPU mount, right? So our TPU mounts that Corey designed slide over the two front standoffs, and then there's adjustability for your camera as well. So that was a big piece of it. Obviously, sorry, I dropped this. Another piece, so I don't know if this is the best way to show all this, but it seems to be the easiest. Another thing that we noticed on some frames was the placement of your stack, right? Some of the stacks weren't centered in the frame, right? Some were a little bit back, some were a little bit forward, and some were dead center, right? We felt the best place would be dead center. So with it being centered, it runs the straight line through the middle of the frame. Basically, this hole is dead center. So we put 20 mil holes and 35 mil holes.
So yeah, it's got the 20 by 20 spacing and the 30 by
great.
Standard spacing. Some of the things that we try to pay attention to the details were, we left a 3 millimeter outside cut tolerance from anything from an inside cut tolerance. So we left a 3 mil spacing around every single inside cut to outside cut around the entire edge of the frame. That center circle there serves a bunch of different reasons. A dome is obviously stronger than a flat roof, so adding that circle inside of the very dead center of that adds some forward and back side to side rigidity to the whole idea around it. I can tell you that and the same thing goes with our battery straps, the slots for those. So I wanted something that if I broke a battery strap, I could fish right out and fish a brand new one right back in without having to take anything on the quad apart. So, something like that. We paid attention to those fine details. So I started with, some measurements like just, kind of an X. And then I was like, you know what? I want X amount of millimeters from here. I'm tired of fidgeting with this strap. I want to go an extra millimeter here, an extra millimeter there. I don't want to have to force this strap through this skinny slot. I want enough room to be able to fish it through there, So just all kinds of details like that. For instance, the way we like to mount our XT60 plug, having the XT60, instead of just dangling around the back or trying to figure out a way to zip tie it down, we actually put two different sets of slots for zip tie slots. So you can either zip tie your wire down to the frame, or you can actually zip tie the entire XT60 down to the frame, depending on how much slack you leave outside of the, of your wire from your PDB. So just little attentions to detail, like Keith said, adding the stock camera mount holes, or utilizing the TPU mounts, keeping our standoff widths the same exact width of the flight controller so that the edges of the flight controller are completely protected by the top and bottom carbon fiber plates. Do like a super narrow standoff or a super wide standoff. We just kind of found that sweet spot that we found worked. Having the, like Keith showed, on the edge of the arms, having that little cutout, we didn't want to do a slot that could break completely off. So if you wanted to do an underslung ESC, you could wrap your motor wire right in that concave, still being completely protected, and not having something that can just shear off if it had maybe a gap hole, through the end of the arm, a circle or whatever. little things like that. Even the curvature of the inside of the arm. So the curvature here was special attention to detail. All of the curves, really, everywhere on the frame, a lot of attention to detail was on that, just to gain as much strength, rigidity as possible. And because we did go with the solid bottom plate, we didn't do removable arms and things like that. I tell you, I have smashed and crashed these things on purpose sometimes, just to try to break one. And sometimes, I'll admit, not on purpose. I was ripping around this backfield. I didn't know the guy had put steel poles along the whole field with birdhouses on it. I'm ripping around. I went from 100 to 0 in a half a second. I'm like, 3 days after we got the first batch of frames, I'm like, I just buttered one right in half. That thing is sheared. I thought for sure I had totaled this thing. Picked it off the ground, bent a prop back, checked it over. It had just a kind of a scuff where it had hit dead nut right on the center there of the frame. Ready to fly. Bent the prop back, took back off, not a problem. I was like, well, okay then. So that's not.
And trust me, he's a way better pilot than I am. So if I haven't broken one yet, they're pretty tough.
Hey, there you go. That's pretty cool. And like breaking bottom plates is a little weird because there are times when you would smash into something, you're like, okay, that's totaled. And you go over there, it's like bent prop like you guys. And then there are days oh, that was just a small drop. And you go over there, it's completely total. And you're like, what's going on? It's like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, we'll touch base more on the frames here on some of our design thought process.
So everybody has these, right?
Yep, VTXs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. It's kind of a standard. There's a lot of new ones out now with TBS, all the ones that they have. But it's still. I feel like this is still a really popular VTX. Right. Yeah. You got one right there. Yeah. So. How do you mount your VTX? Can you easily change the channels and bands on your VTX when it's in your frame?
So
yeah,
it's a yes and no prospect, right? Because it depends on the frame. Because there are certain frames that are built towards specific VTXs, and then there are some where you just double side tape it and you just go okay, I hope it stays.
Yeah, I hope it stays, and I hope I can access to the little button to be able to change the bands and the channels.
Definitely,
and right. So that was a big thing for Corey and myself is I wanted it easy for him to be able to quickly power on his VTX, change the channels, whatever he needs to do. And then for me, I wanted it to be easy for anybody to pick up the frame and to do it. So if you're using, just a standard VTX, I designed the top plate to kind of mirror that. So the way it works is, I'll show you from this end first. The middle hole shows the screen for your channels and your bands, right?
Pretty cool.
The holes on the left and the right happen to fit the tip of your finger just perfectly to line up with the button to turn it on and off and to change your bands and your channels. So if you're using just a standard one, this is super easy. And then just doing simple math, we put the zip tie holes. One zip tie hole holds the SMA piece of your VTX. The second one holds the actual antenna. So you're doubling your strength. You can't back off an antenna, and just gives it that much more rigidity. And then your holes at the bottom here are for the bottom end of your VTX. So basically, if my fat fingers can do this, you're mounting on the bottom like this, and it makes it super strong, super rigid. And then again, if you want to use a different VTX, you can. So I stumbled upon, I don't know how well you can see this. So that's the little LED or CD channel and band. This is brand new. Found the guy on Instagram. He sent me out a couple of these. I purchased them. But it's nice because it'll actually have the letters on your bands and then the numbers for the channel. So it makes it super easy. And then he has the button over here. So I didn't have to modify my frame. It's a completely different design of a VTX, and it still works for our top deck. So that was one of the things too, that it's versatile, right? It works with the standard one that everybody has sitting in their drawer. But if something new comes out, it's adaptable, and you can kind of change it without having to Dremel out your frame, right?
What VTX is that?
It is. Oh, what
I
is
just
that
sent you the
called?
link. Actually, I can tell you in 1 second. So,
So as he looks up that,
Yeah, I'm interested because it looks like something I know what it is, but I'm not sure. I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
But
So this guy on Instagram, we've talked just a couple of times. I saw the VTX. I'm like, hey, this thing's cool. So he has like an eBay store now. He has a website that's up and running. But his
sounds just like who I think it is.
yeah,
it probably is.
FPV underscore 3D. You know the guy? I don't know.
Yeah, that's Chad, man.
That's Chad. Yeah,
That's
he's
Chad.
actually he's part of my team down here.
Yeah,
So,
that's Team Coral, baby.
Yeah, he's a part of my team.
Super cool guy. Yeah. I saw the pictures. I'm like, man, that looks pretty cool. So I ordered 2 right off the rip, and I said, you know what? I want to try different VTX in the frame. I like that you can switch from pit mode, 25 mil, 35 mil, and or 200, 200 milliwatts. So
and then boost mode. Don't forget boost mode.
And then boost mode. Yeah, I mean, Corey's not lying when he says like he flies all the time, and I build and they set on. Yeah, I've powered this on, tested it, and it hasn't even been there yet. So I need to just build and just give them to him to let him fly him and race him. Yeah. But it works super well. And the reason I bought him is because I wanted to make sure different VTXs out there will work for our frames. And when you build our frame, we're particular about how we do it. But we want to make sure people, when they're building our frames, if they have questions, that they can obviously come to us. We can help troubleshoot because it is a very compact, tight build. And you have to know what you're doing. And most guys, when you're at this level, you know what you're doing. You know what you're getting yourself into. I wish we could show you a little bit better here, but that's my stack. It's a RROSD race flight board.
I see the race flight.
Yep. Corey made me a TPU mount for my XSR receiver, and then the new RunCam Swift Mini is in there.
Oh, nice. That's pretty nice.
Using stock camera mount.
Using the stock camera mount that it comes with. And it fits perfectly in there. And I can have more rake on my camera than I would ever.
It looks perfect like my angle. That's my angle.
That's not how you fly, right? Like, roughly like this.
You guys are crazy. So, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. See.
Yeah, I know.
Right there.
Yeah. That's how I'm like a 45, 50 degree, kind of guy.
So and again, this is, it's different. It's clean. It's easy to build. Man. Yeah. I mean, so that's kind of where it started. Really, the creation came from looking at a bunch of different frames that we've personally bought, built, and during the build, we're like, man, I wish this was here, or I wish that was like this. So we just kind of cataloged those in our brain, and then when we were ready to start it, we remembered all of those things. And no frame's perfect, right? I'm not claiming ours is. I'm sure people, may have them, and they're like, oh, I wish this guy would have, put this here or this there. But
so hindsight is always better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? The feedback that we have gotten from all of the people that have purchased our frames, and really that's who we would like to thank, are all of the customers so far that have supported us in this journey of just going from, hey, let's make a frame that's cool for us and that we like, to being like, hey, why not start a website and throw them up on there just to spread the word and to spread our idea to whoever would like to, try it out, So we're lucky enough to have, customers all over the world right now, but, we have quite a few in Florida, California, Michigan, Illinois, Texas, North Dakota. Just all over. It's just crazy. Virginia.
I don't think we have one in Kentucky yet.
Yeah, I don't think we got
Hey, we'll have to work on that. We're going to have to work on that. Okay, I'll be your first customer. I won't lie. I'll be your first customer. So that's pretty cool. And
I already spoke my ear, man, off camera.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. And we have people, already coming back, they haven't even broke them yet, and they're coming back for their second and third frames. So that's saying something that, hey, they tried it out, they like something enough to get another one, and that, I feel like, that says a lot. And
the big thing for us, like I said, the sport it's getting more cost effective, but it's still not a cheap sport to get into. So, I mean, you can go out, you can spend, you know, 80, 90, 120, $150 on a frame and break it the next day, the next hour, whatever.
Right.
So we said, you know what, let's start with 2 frames, see if we even get anybody to buy it, right? We invested our own money. We're like, God, I hope people buy these frames because we just spent our own money on them, right?
And I just built 3 of the first ones, so
Right.
So we wanted to make, you know, our Pure X frame comes with, you know, really good hardware, literally everything you need for $50. I mean, and to get a solid, I mean, good quality carbon fiber frame, a 5-inch frame for $50, you know, I'd put our frame against any other frame that's out for $50, right?
Well, here's my deal, and here's why I love you guys, and I will definitely buy one of your frames just to try it out. Is one, buy from the U.S., created in the U.S., support your local guys. Hey, that's like 3 home runs, and everybody should support you. That's what what I think.
And our guy that, you know, we found through connections that we had just right across the border into Canada right there. So we claim that we get our frames and they're all out of North America is what we like to say.
Sounds like somebody else I know, damn it.
Hey, you know what? As long as they're in this continent, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is I want to keep it, you know, me, I'm just the novice, right? Like, I can get through a gate, I can make a few laps, but he's the one that really is pushing him to the test. But I'm the guy that, you know, throwing the example out there that, you know, maybe you have a family, maybe you don't have the funds or the means to spend, you know, every paycheck you have on quad parts. So
not saying that I do.
So, you know, that's not true. That was a big thing for us is, you know, I wish we could, you know, if we can get them lower, we will, right? But, you know, we're not buying our frames for $5 and selling them for 50, right? But we're giving everybody that buys one, you know, a really good, solid, you know, piece of race equipment for a good price.
No, I think that price point is pretty amazing. And Keith, I'm with you. You and I are in sync when it comes to like flying in time, and you know, we got other things we need to do, and we got other money that has to go somewhere else because that's life, you know. Elvin's more like Corey, you know. They're both just race junkies.
No, we're leaving it out. I have a girlfriend that has 2 kids that live with me, so you know, and that day that it's all coming for me too. But you know, my girlfriend's super supportive. You know, loves to watch it too, and same with Keith's wife. Yeah. We're very lucky to have 2 people in our lives that are just really cool about it.
That's exactly how it is over here. I got my unicorn. If you come this way, I'm shooting. I'm telling you now. I got my unicorn. If you come over here looking for something, you're gonna get shot. That's how it is.
That's right. You got to have somebody behind you, next to you, not just my brother, but you know, having an awesome wife, and it's really fun for us because you know, go to family functions. People are always asking us like, "Hey, how's that thing you guys are doing with those things that fly in the air?" You know? People were always, you know, super supportive, and with, you know, Allie, Corey's girlfriend, and Erin, my wife. It was cool just to mention, you know, the other day, hey, we're going to do this podcast. And she's like, really? She's like, you do me to clean a room for you guys or anything? And I'm like, no, I think we're okay. But it's nice to have the support from, you know, even her family and everybody kind of behind us. So we're just small guys, but we're trying to make it fun for everybody and
keep it simple, guys. Just keep it simple.
Yesterday was our birthday too, by the way. So
oh, great! Happy birthday!
Nice. Congratulations.
Only 32, but we look a lot older. So
hey, you know what? When you do everything yourself and you work hard, that's just life. That's just how it is.
You look young to me.
That's the fun part.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. And big. Oh, hold on. What is your website?
It's twinquadframes.com.
Twinquads.com, and also a big shout out to
Twin Quad Frames. Yep, twinquadframes.com.
Twinquadframes.com. And also a big shout out to Unlock FPV. That's the VTX that you just shown.
Yeah.
He's also local here, so support him.
Switch VTX.
Switch VTX.
Unlock Switch. Yep.
So pretty cool, guys. Yeah, you know what? I actually really like your, I guess your attention to detail and also your methodology, because what you're really trying to do is you're trying to build a quality machine at a price which everybody can afford, which, right now that's mostly just coming out of China. Unfortunately, when you spend money and it all goes to China, very little of it comes back. And that's why that's what I don't like. And that's what I probably criticize the most, is that we need to get more support for our local guys, keep the money here so that we can keep it circulating around our communities. And, it's worth spending a little more to do that. It really is.
You know what?
Even these shirts, local lady made these.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, and I'm not saying, with whatever means you have, like, to get into the hobby, I'm not saying I've never bought a frame off of Amazon that I know came from China. But when I did that and it broke and I didn't have anybody to back me up or support, that was another piece of what we wanted to do. It was like, you know what? I did it. I don't think it's maybe always the best way to do it, but if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. So it's like, hey,
definitely.
Let's there's always one way to get it done, or multiple ways of getting it done. But this is just, another way of looking at it, not having to always buy it, from China that you don't really have the support. So
pretty cool.
Really, there would be a lot less racers. I mean, realistically, if we really wanted to, everybody, we all try to establish ourselves and then walk away from using the clones, and I've done it, and others have done it too. But, really this industry has profited very well from clones being available to all of us. The ZMR 250 was actually supposed to be a clone of the Blackout, Blackout H, and then what did they come out with? Then the Nightmare, blah 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 blah, and then the Nighthawk. So all we can say that it's been an interesting part of bringing. It's been a focal point of bringing new pilots in. Yeah, and with that, you have an opportunity to learn, and because you get things at a cheaper cost, you have an opportunity to learn and get past a certain point. And then you have an opportunity also to say, you know what? Okay, I've gone as far as I need to go. I've proven that I'm going to continue to stay in this sport. Yeah. This is my hobby. I'm going to do this from now on. Now I'm going to make a point and buy this way and only this way. Yeah. Just don't forget about, you can also give that stuff to somebody else.
Just the other day.
Do you guys, I mean, I know you guys are a small company, and I'm all about the community, boosting the community, making the community grow and feeding the community as much as I can. And I have a couple of guys that I personally, out of my wallet or pocket or whatever, my hobby fund, that I kind of give them stuff, occasionally me and we get stuff to give away, or we get stuff passed on to us. And so what we do is we give it to other people that can use it, and is not worried about whether it's D-shot or one shot or multi-shot. They just want to get in the damn air. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I wanted to, I always want to bring out is, don't forget those new pilots out there that you can help along. There's a few of them out there that you already know, you can see where they're going. Yeah. And they got they just need a little guidance and a little help to move into the right direction.
Absolutely. That's not just with this hobby, but if it's something that's sitting on my workbench that I know is just going to collect dust, and there's a guy on Facebook that says, hey, does anybody have an extra, DYS 30 amp ESC? Right. That's the awesome part about the community. I won't be the only one saying, yeah, I have one. Do you want it? Right. There's going to be multiple guys doing that. And again, I'd rather give it to somebody that can use it. I don't need the $3 that he'd be willing to pay or whatever. Like, just use it, take it. Like, I want to get you in the air. One, right? That's just getting more people into the hobby, into the sport, and that I think that's in general how the community is for the most part. I feel like most guys, you go to a race, you go to an event, if you're down, you got more than one guy willing to help you out, which I think is really cool. That's an awesome part of of what we're doing here, is creating that community and that kind of that friendly feel. So I think
I still think that's kind of like, to me, that part is a little different, because it's a little driven different to me.
Okay.
It's driven because I don't want to beat your ass unless you're at your best, right?
Exactly.
I mean, technically that's how it is. I mean, I've been into a couple of big races and been on the line with some big guys, and maybe I haven't come out on top, but the fact is I was on the line and ready to go. You know what I mean? And when the race, when the beep went off, beep, I was there and I was ready to go. You know what I mean? And to me, that makes a big difference. But I think that a lot of that sharing and helping out is only because, nobody wants to go, well, you only won because Joe Blow didn't have, he blew an ESC on the start line, or he popped, he couldn't fix his ship the night before, crash. So I think that's kind of what drives. I mean, I know it's some of both. You know what I mean? It's got to be some of both.
Yeah, it's funny. Like last week, there's a local guy, really interested in the frames, but just hard on times right now, and just didn't have the thing. So, I had some leftover parts, and he wanted to try to maybe race last Sunday, and so he came over midweek, and I gave him everything he needed for a full build, and he raced that Sunday. So he came up to me, he's like, "Look, I got it all here ready to go." I'm like, "Get on the line, let's race it," So and it's really what it's all about, is because I've had it done for me, I've had people do it for me, and of course I'm going to do that for the next guy, So it is. It's just we're just a big family, and but a competitive family at that.
Right.
I don't always. I never let Keith beat me. So, but
I would. The only way I would beat him if I did go over and like cut an ESC wire or something.
You just go tackle him. him. You know what? That's very true. Pass the love on and do whatever you can to get into the air, even if it means buying the cheapest parts. I'm definitely a proponent of that. And, whenever you can, buy local. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But
when
definitely
you can, buy local. Don't forget,
Elvin. Yes, Elvin. You can get me off my high horse. Now you can stop, okay? All right, let's move on to the next subject. Elvin's like, don't forget to. Yeah, I know. You.
Yeah.
I know you are a cost-conscious person, and you are right.
Yes,
I should not leave those people out. So definitely, if you can get in the air, get into the air, because we want to have you in the community, and we're all here to support you. Right. Except when I'm race directing, then leave me alone. Leave me alone. I got too many things in my head. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the last part of the podcast, which is kind of, we're going to get out a crystal ball and we're going to rub it and we're going to try to predict the future, and we're all going to be wrong, but we're going to try anyways. Yeah. So Corey and Keith,
having later, how it is.
Having started a company, being, really aggressive and being in the community, racing and everything, where do you think this is all going, or where do you want it to go?
I mean, us personally, as just two guys that came out with a couple frames, we would just like to see these frames get into as many hands as possible. And just to, already the races that I've gone to, I'm like, hey, that's my frame. Oh, hey, that guy has my frame too. So that is cool to even see that. But I just want guys to know that, hey, there is a good product out there for a decent price that really anybody could get their hands on, kind of thing. And, we're not trying to make, like Keith said, $1 million. We're not trying to quit our day jobs doing this. This is something that we decided to do as a side gig, and to see kind of where it goes and to maybe support our own habits through it would be awesome to do. But just to kind of see where it goes into, the community is big and growing right now. So, the term goes out there like, hey, let's ride that wave as that wave is going. So, and there is a wave right now, and we are trying to ride that wave a little bit, but also, to get an awesome product out there and to help everybody out.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's it's obviously a massive market for what everybody's trying to do. I mean, there's countless number of small frame guys, right? And then there's the big guys that are the big players. But you know what? Those big frame players that are out there, where'd they start from? Right?
Exactly.
Probably their garage or their basement, like here. So
a lot of big frame guys have gone.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah,
they're gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and maybe we're able to pick up, the slack for where maybe some of them have, maybe, fizzled away or died out. I hope we're not one of those guys when push comes to shove. But, if somebody's out there with a busted frame and they're willing to try something else, it'd be awesome to have you give us a shot. And if you break it, man, you must have been flying pretty damn fast. So. That's a cool thing to like Corey was saying, just to see the frames out there. If it blows up and we get 1,000 frames a week getting ordered, where obviously I'm exaggerating, but I'd like to get into the spot where the demand is so high that we have to maybe look at ramping up what we're doing here. We literally, we joke that this is Twin Quad Frames headquarters / my basement. So
that's how it is.
It is. I mean, we're working on. We're obviously pretty crafty people. So we're sitting on a pretty cool workbench work desk that I built for myself down here in the basement, and it's just we're starting small and getting as many frames out there as we can, and we're doing it on our own, so our own way.
And then, for me, as far as racing goes, because that's kind of the two-parter to this, because I really started into it just as freestyle and then got into racing, and I was like, hey, like, this is something I can do, and I do okay at, I'm not winning every race or anything, but like last weekend I got second, and then at a Cincinnati quad race against 3 DRL pilots, Boba Fett, Jaws, and another guy, I took 8th. So, I'm happy. If I can be in the top 10 in any race, I'll take it, So,
there you go.
I would like to just see myself go to as many multi-GP races as supporting twin quad frames and just try to do as well as I can and stay consistent, and maybe get to nationals this year would be awesome, and just to qualify to as far as I can, and as really any race or that I can get to would be awesome. So, and I'm always open to travel and go outside of just Ohio to get to the races. I'm open to going to the surrounding states as well, just to really show and kind of what I got against the other guys out there, and and really to kind of a little bit back to that adaptive sport, guys in wheelchairs. Actually, that Cincinnati race was the first race that I've been to in 2 years that I've seen actually another guy in a wheelchair was at. And I was like,
nice.
This is awesome. This is what I want to see. Because I want guys out there to say, maybe those veterans coming back from the military that are newly disabled, that feel like they got nothing going for them. They're going to lay in a bed and they're going to rot away. No, you can grab a controller, you can put on a set of goggles, and you can go wherever you want to go at that point. I want to this out to that, call it whatever, but the disability community out there, the disabled people of the world, because, like Captain Uno, him and I, we go back and forth, and he's always posting awesome videos of dudes with one hand chopping wood, beating guys in competitions. Like, it just goes to show you that, don't let anything hold you back. If you want to do something, you try hard enough and you'll succeed at it,
Right.
So it's just taken me so many places that really I never knew what I would ever get to, but I've also been lucky enough to experience a lot of things that maybe other people haven't got to experience, things like that. Like when I go to these races, for instance, I feel very, very lucky and fortunate because a lot of these races, as you know, they're outside, they're in big fields, they're in people's cornfields here in Ohio, So I'm lucky enough to have a a tank chair. I don't know if you saw on my Instagram, we look back far enough, but I have an all-terrain electric tank tread wheelchair. Look it up, trackfab.com. I'll give them a shout out. They're awesome.
Nice.
They provided me with an awesome piece of mobility device that gets me out in those fields, gets me across to where I need to go to get to these races. Because, I'll tell you what, pushing around in that chair through a thick, heavy grass field, it's not fun. But I will tell you this too. Everybody in that community would be happy to take my quad to the line and plug me in and power me up if I do wreck out there. Any one of the guys, oh, I got you, Corey. Don't even worry about it. Now, I'm not saying I ever wreck, but when I do,
nobody ever wrecks, right, guys?
But just to have that support, and it goes to show you that everybody is so supportive. There's been many times that I've loaded up my tank chair, taken it all the way out to a race, and it sat on the trailer because I had enough support there that I didn't have to get it off the trailer.
That's pretty cool. And I think I know the guy that you're talking about. His name is Chuck. See, like close-knit circles. He's actually works with me.
Yes.
I know Chuck.
Chuck. Yep. Chuck's a great guy. I met him in Cincinnati like 3 weeks ago.
Yep. Shout out to Chuck. He actually listens to the podcast, so you can say hi to him right
Chuck.
now.
Chuck, I told you I'd pull you around through that field. You should have just grabbed on, man.
I did not know that. That's funny. I'm going to tell him that. No, actually, I was just telling him to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, he's a beast, though. He is a beast. He pushed himself through that whole field. Muscles, man. Not saying that I couldn't, but I was just lucky to have a tank chair.
hey, you know what? You always want electric when you have it, right? It's like
you got it.
Right.
Pretty cool. So, last question, then we'll start wrapping up. Where do you see the sport going? I'll start with Keith and Corey. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, call it 2 years, right? 2 years is when this really started to blow up. It's really hard to say. I mean, I think it's just going to continue to grow. I think it's going to have its ups and downs over the next few years, but it's becoming more and more mainstream. Obviously, with ESPN being a big part of it now. I'd say in 5 years, I don't think it's going to get to the part of like NASCAR or IndyCar anytime soon, but it's definitely going to get more recognition, even from people that aren't in the sport, right? We have a lot of family members that don't necessarily know what we do, but they hear about it and like, oh yeah, I think I saw that on ESPN. I watched a couple of the races or whatever. So you're going to get more people that aren't necessarily in the sport that are going to be drawn to it. Just like a lot of sports, right? A lot of people, I'm a big golfer, but there's people that enjoy the sport or watching it because of, Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy or whatever, but they don't ever play the sport. They've never picked up a club in their life, but they're attracted to it for some reason. I think once you get the right people in place, which there are a lot of already, and they're being recognized for what they do, that's really going to make the sport grow, right? You need the right people, the right face or whatever to really get this thing, fired up even more than it already is. But in 2 years from where we started to where we are, I can't even imagine where it's going to be in 2 more years from right now. Just technology alone, just even the technology piece, it's going to be awesome to be hopefully a part of it.
Cool.
Yeah. And, I have similar thoughts on that, but maybe a little bit differently, just because I have been maybe a little bit more involved in the actual races, going to the races, being pretty close friends with some of these guys that are in the DRL and the DR1 series and all of that, and seeing the progression going from analog to digital with the HD systems that are, on the verge of making some big headway there as well. I see the sport progressing as probably skateboarding did in the 70s and 80s. Right now, we're kind of like those rebel skateboarders, skateboarding in the cities we shouldn't be skating in, or down those streets we shouldn't be skating in, or, doing some of the things that we shouldn't be doing, like diving buildings and that kind of stuff. But you know what? It's fun. We're drawn to it. It makes good content. Whether you think it's right or wrong, you still watch it, So, and that's where I think it can kind of go 2 different ways as far as an entertainment industry, as far as just freestyle and what kind of cool content do these guys come out like with Rotor Riot and, Steel and all those guys. And then the whole racing side of things as well, like with Sean Taylor and Night Fury and all of those very, very talented racers as well. That's what's really, like he said, you got to have that face and that name to put along with it. That's going to push that sport and to gain those spectators, to gain the masses, to make it more like, something like NASCAR or whatever. But I think right now, if we can progress it to the point of, as skateboarding is today, would be an awesome thing to see. Now, I haven't really been following too much skateboarding and stuff lately, and it is still really, really big, but it's one of those things that maybe has tapered off just a hair from, just even a few years ago. So, but if we can get enough spectators as big as something like the X Games, maybe drone racing would be an X Games sport. Like whoever would have thought rally car racing would now be an X Games sport kind of thing, and whoever would have thought skateboarding, and now this guy that rode Travis Pastrana going from dirt bikes to rally car to the cross country truck racing, and so it just kind of goes to show you really don't know where something might take off, but I think it's going to take off. I think it's going to take off big.
And I think just a last bit on that is the technology. The better the technology gets, the easier it's going to be to get it in front of people, right? Because you're flying tiny little 5-inch quads at 90 miles an hour. That's sometimes probably pretty hard to capture, right? And to get that,
it's really hard to capture.
That TV spectator, like I use NASCAR as an example. There's no really true correlation there, but they're driving in an oval and they have fans watching, but on TV they have a camera just basically panning from a long distance the track. There's just a different piece of technology that needs to get there to make this really get to where everybody wants it to be. And it'll happen. It's definitely going to happen. It's just hard to put a timestamp on that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Elvin, what do you think?
Well, I think here's what my thought process is on that. The X1 class is the bigger class, right?
1,000mm stuff.
They have the ship size to capture, to bring an audience attention to, and keep you locked in, right? I mean, you see this big monster take off and you're like, wow, and it starts to move, and Big Whoop has gotten theirs over 100 miles an hour. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but Big Whoop came out, and I forgot what the time was, but what the speed actual was, but I know they broke 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
With the X1 class, and that's what they're doing in the background. But what I think is the size of the ship gives a lot of opportunity to put sensors everywhere. And the problem that we've had is we've only been able to do so many sensors, right? And we're starting to move into these new flight controllers that's giving us more UARTs and more processing power. They just came out with an F7 flight controller. I hear that within the next 2 weeks, we're going to see an F10. So with that extra processing power and those extra UARs give us an opportunity to utilize more sensors. And the more sensors we use, the more we can move this into an overlay type of video system where we can see, your GPS location on the screen as you're moving through space and time on the field. You can see your 3-position point, or GPS tracking or whatever you want to call it. But I know there's different ways of doing it, but I think that's the opportunity. Now the problem is that with the X1 class, things are so huge, and they haven't had a big ship try to move so fast before.
Yeah,
and things are just not there yet. The cost it's not cost effective enough, even though they're trying to drop the prices down. But the thing is that once we get these F10s and F7s in our little ships, and we can utilize smaller and smaller sensors, we'll be able to adapt that toward the larger ships too. So it'll make things it always seems like something comes out in a large size, and then we whittle it down to its smallest point, and then
All the
we
way back.
send it back right toward the big guy, and he goes, "Oh yeah, now I got room, plenty of room for that." You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where we're going with the X1 class and the progression of FPV racing, because it's going to happen for the quads just as well as for all aspects of drone racing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get a better picture of a wing over a field. You know, you're going to see a 3D as he's dipping and diving over trees and cutting in and out of stuff. So I think in the future we're going to see a better race, because as you both of you have said, and why I've said before, that we're moving fast through the technology phases, right? And things is a pop, 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 pop. You know, right now we're on D shot 600. You know, give us probably 3 months from now, we'll be on double D shot. You know?
Double D shot. Okay. Yeah. Well,
You know,
yeah, you're probably right.
Sound
But
like fake terms now.
It's just what I'm saying. I mean, we all acknowledge that this stuff moves really, really fast. It's like a virus in the field, in the schoolyard, you know. And with all of that going on, we're still having fun, and I like that whole aspect. Is even though stuff is moving real fast, everybody still has their little null niche spot with it and got comfortable, and they're having fun and trying to stay competitive in that little niche. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's pretty
I think
cool.
you're right on it with the 1,000mm class. That's what I imagine seeing is big quads, you know, the size of like a four-wheeler or a dirt bike, ripping through the woods, chasing down each other with the follow cameras and all of that stuff. I think was just really what's going to bring those outsider people to watch it on TV, to be like, well, those things are big and those things are hauling butt, so let's watch that. So and with the HD and everything, and when HD gets something to like that size is when we'll really be cooking there.
Yeah, because you know, look at NASCAR; they put 5 or 6 cameras on each car now,
all over the car, exactly.
Right.
And that's what we're going to want. We're going to want a camera in the
cockpit. You can see bumpers almost touching.
Yep.
You know, that's interesting.
They are touching.
To me.
They are touching.
Yeah, they are touching.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
that's the kind of stuff I agree. That's really, really interesting, and it would draw my attention more to racing.
Yeah,
I agree. There's definitely some interesting technologies coming down the pipeline that could really help us boost this into something that spectators want to see. But at the end of the day, it's people like us who has to really drive it and ensure that the community's there for all of this technology, because we're not in a waiting game, but we're definitely all anticipating some technologies to come down that will be a game changer in terms of not how we fly, but how we perceive and watch other people fly, and that's
Right.
a big game changer in terms of audience participation. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys. So just wrapping up, I want to present a challenge to you guys because you're builders, and this is a frame that I would love to see. So don't take the challenge seriously, but if you want to take the challenge seriously, I would love to see a very user-friendly inductress type frame that kids can build. Okay, right now we have the inductress, but you don't learn much because it comes completely built, you know, but it's very friendly. You can bounce it off the walls and nobody gets hurt. But I would love to see one in which you can build it yourself, or your family can build it yourself, and then you can learn something, but you can fly it anywhere. I've seen some things that are close, but they're not close enough yet.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great idea. I already got ideas kind of bouncing around my head here. So, because that's the thing. I mean, we grew up with Legos and the Erector set and all that stuff. So, that's a cool idea. Yeah, definitely want to put that on scratch it down on some paper for sure.
I already told you.
But yeah, I'm with you. I
already told you.
Just tell you my idea.
Forget what he talking about. Forget what he talking about.
Yeah.
It's Emacs, man. That's all I gotta say.
I'll take Waze, and Corey, you can have Elvin's idea. So
yeah, I guarantee you that that Emax thing is something special.
Yeah. You know what? Ready, built.
Quincy,
I want to build something. I want my children to learn stuff. I want kids to learn stuff.
Yeah. So just throwing it out, like, what if
we already had something?
Like what if here? Let me grab this. So like I just happen to have like all this stuff like laying around always. So like what if you could get like literally it's a tiny whoop, but in just separate bags and pieces with a easy Lego-esque instruction. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Plug in a battery, you're good to go. Like I think because you don't even you need one screwdriver to put a tiny whip together. Like
definitely,
and even the parts that need to be soldered, you can have that part done, right? Still give them the ability to like put the motors in the right direction, put the props on, plug them in. Make it simple to where if you really want a kid, maybe not getting into the software aspect of it, or like hey, you need to do all the PID tuning. Like take some of that out of it, but give them the step-by-step pieces to at least put it together. Like maybe make that an option. Like, hey, do you want it pre-built or do you want to build it yourself? Like we'll send you all the pieces and we'll send you a step-by-step. It's literally 5-step instructions to do it.
Let me tell you this right now.
Video would be the big.
So down here, I am a volunteer judge for something called Vex Robotics. We have the world championships down here. 1,000. Yep, 1,000 families come in. 31 countries come to Louisville for a 7-day event. And I have middle schoolers that can explain to me what PID tuning is because they PID tune for the robotics. So don't underestimate the kids. Yeah. And like these are robotics in terms of actuator arms and motors for lifting stuff, but it's still PIDs, right? If you put a motor to pressure and lift, you need to understand PIDs. So like I can tell you they would love something like that. They would love something that's easy.
I guess make it, you would have the option to like, if you want to plug it into your PC, you can. But I want to also make it for the kid that isn't quite that level, right?
Exactly.
You want to make it as easy or as advanced as whatever skill level you are. The components are all the same. It just, do you want to plug it into your computer or do you not?
Yep. And the reason why I say this, okay, it's the act of building it to learn that, but it's also the fact that once they break it, which they will, they're kids, come on, they're going to drop it off stuff and they can repair it themselves. And the learning process to troubleshoot, to learn how to repair it is invaluable to their thought process and then getting them into the community. So my personal challenge to you, I've challenged some other people. We're going to see if like anybody actually takes up the challenge and see, somebody will do it because I've seen close, but they're really hard to build. Like they need to be high school, college to build these because like the amount of soldering, the small pieces, and it's carbon fiber. It's really hard to build. It's something easy.
I got a really good idea. I'm gonna put something together. I got a cool idea I want to put together, and we'll talk after the show or later next week, and we'll send it to you.
I would love to showcase that somewhere. Anyways. That's all I have, or that's all the time I have. How about that? So, Corey, Keith, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find us on our website, twinquadframes.com. And that name, Twin Quad Frames, you can find us everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, basically those three. Our website, Instagram, and Facebook. And then our personal Instagrams are our first initial C and my last name Grywalski. So CGRYWALSKI. It's going to be the exact same thing for him, but with a K. So so those are our personal Instagrams. Twinquadframes.com will get you to our website, and it'll also link you to our Facebook and Instagram there as well. So.
Pretty cool. Appreciate it. And, I'll definitely check out your frames, probably get one just to showcase it because it's a great price point, local. Love it. Elvin, awesome. You got anything else you want to say before I cut out?
No, guys, I think we got 2 new focal points over there in your area, and I think these guys are headed in the right track. And you can't stop what's good. You can't stop what's good.
That.
You can talk about it, but you can't stop it.
Right.
So people find that out about me too. I'm just saying.
Oh, here comes the boasting. Now I'm going to cut out. I'm going to kick you off. All right.
You can't stop the good, brother.
Thunderstorms are coming through my area, and my internet is just all over the place. So we're going to cut out. Holy cow! It's almost 2 hours. We're not even cutting out early. So. Yeah, appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to actually seeing you guys, because if you go to the Cincy races, I'll eventually catch up with you guys. I try to make it out there at least once or twice a year, so hopefully you'll be out there when I am.
May 7th. I'll be down there May 7th for their next race coming up.
Okay, nice. Cool. I will try to make it down there.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time, and that is the end for the podcast.
Thanks a lot.
Woo-hoo.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you once again for tuning in to the FPV podcast. We have a fantastic community, and we would like to expand that community and support them. To do so, we need your help. If you go to www.patreon.com/FPV podcast, you'll be able to become a patron of the show for as little as $1 a month. Our content creation will not change, but we will be able to grow our community and provide even more support for our dedicated FPV fans. Thank you.